everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Guys, welcome to the 100th episode of Dirty Martini. I am so excited. I'm shaking with excitement right now. As you can see, I decorated. Yes, I have not put up the shelf I told you I'm going to put up. I know I always say, yeah, the only thing that's doing the thing is doing the thing. I just really don't want to do the thing. And the thing is, I, as you can see, I had to put on my fancy clothes, aka jeans and a shirt. And yes, before you start freaking out, the jeans are clean. I do not allow outside clothes on my bed. I have put on these glasses that I got when I went to see Harry Styles in 2023, and I don't know how long I'm going to, you know, continue wearing them throughout this clip because they're actually hurting my head because they're blurring my vision so bad and my vision is already bad. So I have my good ones, like my actual glasses here. But hello, everyone. This is the 100th time I am saying hello. And hopefully, this time around, you can see me better. I know with the previous clip, with the previous episode, the quality of the video was bad, and I have an explanation for that. I recorded it using Riverside, which is the platform which has like a contract with Spotify for podcasters. And the thing is, I don't have 30 euros a month in order to subscribe so that they don't lower my quality. So now I am using, for the first time ever, OBS Studio for recording, and I am hoping everything goes well. I tried it out multiple times recording short clips. I'm hoping everything is fine. I am sorry for last week's quality of the visuals, but hopefully this week it's better. And yes, the I still have not purchased a table for the microphone because they actually don't have it in stock. So while they restock it, I will be using books to support it, and I will try to switch them around. So this time around we have The Fault in Our Stars in Bulgarian, we have To Kill a Mockingbird in Bulgarian, we have Lolita, we have Wuthering Heights, and we have, as the hardcover this time around, we have Time Shelter by Georgi Gospodinov, who is an amazing Bulgarian author. And honestly, if you have the chance, I highly recommend you check out his literature. It has been translated in many languages. I think the way this person writes is so captivating. So if you are interested, if you want to, like, it's a little bit weird and funky the way he writes, but in a good way. So if you are interested in reading very human stories, very everyday stories, definitely check him out. But yeah, so this is the 100th episode. If somebody told 2020, when did this podcast start? 2024 me, that this podcast is going to have 100th episode, and honestly, it went by so incredibly quickly. I don't know if, I mean, honestly, she would have believed you because I know and I still am very passionate about the podcast. And now with the microphone and the video elements of it all, I feel like I am reborn. My excitement about recording is exacerbated so much now, and I cannot wait to see what the next 100th bring. But for this 100th, I wanted to reflect on something quickly. But before I do that, I just want to say that I'm so incredibly thankful to each and every one of you for tuning in every single week to listen to me talk about everything and anything. Your support means everything to me. And just, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel like I always suck at expressing gratitude. That's why I hate receiving gifts because I always feel like the person doesn't actually know how grateful I am for them putting a thought into me. But really, thank you. I don't take this lightly. Time is our most precious resource. It's a resource we can never acquire more of. It's limited. And the fact that you choose to spend time with me is something I don't take lightly. It's something I don't take for granted. And I feel extremely privileged. And I thank you so incredibly much. And I hope you stick around. I hope you've been enjoying the last 100th. I hope we, I don't know, develop together. And I hope Dirty Martini is a space where you find peace, where you find understanding, or even if it's just diversion and entertainment, or even if you're just now tuning in, welcome. I hope you like it. Um, and yeah, I'm very, I know I shouldn't be saying this because it's not very humble, but I am very proud of the fact that there are already 100 episodes out, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. The Dirty Martini has become such an integral part of my day-to-day life, but also such an integral part of who I am, and I'm forever grateful for this space and what it has given me in terms of meeting new people, but also in terms of finding out who I am, navigating my life. Because the thing is, Dirty Martini for me has been such a crucial element when it comes to navigating my adulthood. And sometimes I really wish I had started it earlier. And I'm like, oh, I had been thinking about this for so long. I really should have followed through with my ideas and my wishes and my goals. And sometimes I do beat up myself for this, for not starting sooner. But then I think about it and I'm like, I feel like Dirty Martini came in a very correct time in my life. It, I feel like, because literally I have it over there stuck on my wall. It's my favorite lyric from Vienna by Billy Joel. Slow down, you're doing fine. You can be everything you want to be before your time. And I feel like this just encapsulates what Dirty Martini is for me, because yes, I should have started it earlier maybe, but I started it when I was ready and when Dirty Martini was ready for me. And I feel like with the rather slow, quote unquote, development of the podcast in terms of audience and audience reach, I sometimes am like, oh, is it really, like, am I actually good at this? But then I'm thinking about it more and I'm like, I don't need to have rewards in terms of topping charts or having thousands of listeners in order to feel accomplished and in order to feel successful. And honestly, Dirty Martini, with our small little community, makes me feel very accomplished. And I know that's not sounding humble, but I feel very proud of it. And this is something I'm perhaps a bit too overprotective of, but that's honestly simply because I care so much. So, again, thank you so much for listening, for tuning in, for sharing your opinions, for sharing with friends. I really appreciate it. And I don't take it for granted. And I am forever indebted to you all. But with that being said, let's just cover today's topic, which, as you can probably imagine, I wanted the 100th to be something special, quote unquote. I wanted it to be something memorable and something that reflects what that 100th means to me. Um, and before I begin, I feel like this is such a nice segue. last week, my friend, one of my friends, when she watched the episode, she was like, "Oh, you mentioned the guitar, but you never showed it. How dare you not show it? So please, next time around, show it." So I have her here, and this is the new, well, my only guitar I've ever owned. It is a very basic beginner's classical guitar. It is not expensive at all in terms of guitars. I thought about the fact that, because let's be real, I am financially constrained in a few aspects of my life, considering that, I mean, I only have a part-time job. It's normal. So I wanted to try out and see if I'm going to like playing the guitar, but I didn't want to purchase a guitar that was going to cost me a month's rent. And I That's why I purchased the cheapest guitar I could find. It is this Harley Benton. I honestly don't know the the model exactly, but it's the cheapest Harley Benton I could find, because my thought process was like, I don't want to invest too much money in it at this beginner stage, because first I want to see if I'm going to like it, because I know myself and I know that if I invest a lot of money up front and end up actually not liking it, I would feel like not scammed, but I would feel frustrated. So that's why I was like, let's just buy the cheaper one, the cheapest one I can find. And if I end up liking it later down the line, I can just invest some more into better quality. But I feel like for my purposes of just simply getting into a new hobby and figuring out whether I like this instrument or not, and whether at all I like being musical in terms of playing an instrument or not, I feel like it's serving its purpose perfectly, and I am in love with this. And I feel like this is such a great segue for us to actually get into today's topic. Because today I want to cover, well, not cover extensively, because this is such a complicated and extensive topic, guys. This is hurting my eyes. I'm sorry, I can't. Wow. Okay. Maybe looking at the world through rose-colored lenses is not it, because it just distorts your vision. Consider this metaphorical and literal. Um, Basically, what I wanted to cover today, like I mentioned, is what this 100 means to me and how I got to this 100. Wait, let me look at you. Let me. Okay, now I see you. Hello. Um, and why am I using the guitar as a case study? Sorry for using the term case study. It's just I've started collecting literature for my thesis, and I that's a topic for another time, my thesis, but I will tell you all about it, I promise. But basically, with the guitar, the reason I am using it as a segue, as an example for today's 100th episode, is because for me, it's something new, and it relates very much to my fear of being a beginner. And the thing is, yes, last week when I was, wait, let me open my notes. This time around, my notes are actually not in my notebook, they're on my laptop. Uh, Give me a second. So last week, when I first recorded a video podcast, first time used a microphone, got a guitar, started playing the guitar, first time bombing an exam, which I know sounds cocky, but like it's just, I normally study a lot, and normally I'm not that disoriented when it comes to being in the exam hall. But basically, all of those stuff were new to me. And when I was doing them, I was thinking about this question, which I really hate this question. It's, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And the reason I hate this question is because I think it just triggers me in terms of, I know I'm reflective of my fear of being a beginner. I think that maybe some of you will be able to recognize yourself in this. And last week, when I was beginner in all of those things, I was beginner in like grabbing a guitar for the first time and not even knowing how to hold it. I purchased a guitar without even knowing the difference between an acoustic and a classical guitar. And for those of you who don't know, there's no shame in not knowing, and we'll cover shame today. The difference is that classical guitar has nylon strings, and an acoustic guitar has steel strings. Um, and then with the microphone, and with the video podcast, I had no clue what I was doing. I felt like I was just dropped into this new environment and trying to navigate it. And basically, it was like trying to learn how to ride a bike without using support wheels first, even though I already had experience with podcasting. And now, this week, I also am using a completely new software for the first time to record the podcast. And I'm going to be using a new software to edit the podcast. I will try to use it with, I'll try to edit with DaVinci Studio, I believe it's what it's called. And all of those programs, like those softwares, OBS Studio and DaVinci, they are not as intuitive as Riverside, for me at least yet, because they're way more professional and they're way more comprehensive, and they obviously offer you a lot more tools if you know how to utilize them. And I don't. So that editing this is going to be interesting. Thank God I will be, well, I can say it because by the time you see this, I will have traveled, because I again will be doing my trusty staying at the airport overnight in Amsterdam, simply so that I can go to Eindhoven. So I'll have like 5 hours to figure out how to edit this episode. But the reason I'm bringing all of these stuff is because in all of these stuff, I'm a beginner. And I finally have an answer to that question of when was the last time you did something for the first time. Because the reason I hate it is not only because it triggers my being a beginner fear, but it's because I also hardly ever try out new stuff. Like, for example, I will go back to an old hobby that I had not mm, you like practiced in a long time, but I don't really try out that many new stuff. I don't know the reason why. Well, maybe it's beginner's fear, maybe it's just other constraints that are stopping me from doing this. Um, but I finally have an answer. And the thing is, having an answer to this question doesn't mean much. But me having tried out those new stuff that I was afraid of, stuff that I kept on postponing, made me feel alive. I have not felt as alive as I do now, with this excitement of trying out a new instrument, trying out a new setup, trying out a new recording and editing software, despite it being very daunting. And I feel like this is what I was missing. And I feel like I was the reason I deprived myself of that experience for such a long time, because of that fear of being a beginner. And I think that my fear of being a beginner, for me personally, is rooted in my perfectionism. Because I am the type of person, I want everything to work out perfectly, and I want it to work out from the first try. And that's just not how things happen. Because, for example, with the podcast, now 100 episodes deep, I don't dare say I'm an experienced podcaster. Yes, do I have an experience in podcasting? I do. Am I experienced though? I don't think so. Because there's so much more stuff I'm still learning, and there's so much more stuff I'm still discovering. And like in these 2 weeks of having like a completely new different setup and a new different way to operate on here, I am learning new stuff, and I'm realizing how much more there is out there in the world of podcasting. And basically, I may not consider myself experienced, but I definitely see how much growth I have achieved in those 100 episodes. I never really listened to the podcast, even though, like, the podcast, when you go to my Wrapped, it's always on in top 5 for me, simply because my mom uses my Spotify, and my mom uses listens to every single episode despite not speaking English, which I think is just the sweetest thing ever, because she's like, yeah, I don't know what she says, but that's my child, so I'm going to support, which is just adorable, and I really, really appreciate it. I just appreciate having people around me who support me simply because it's me. Um, so shout out to my mom. But basically, I never listened to the podcast, and the only time I listened to the podcast in the last 1 year was on Dirty Martini's first birthday. I decided to listen to the very first episode as a like a little way to commemorate how far I've gone and how far I've just developed. And just now I'm thinking about, yes, that first episode starts like, it sounds terrible. The audio quality is outrageously bad. The way it's edited, it's so chopped, it's so incoherent, and you can literally sense how nervous I am. And you can hear it in my voice. I remember just sitting over there on the floor next to the radiator and just pressing record and not knowing what that means and what it's going to take. And I remember I had to drink alcohol for quite a few episodes before I actually went to record them, because I was terrified of that daunting aspect of doing something I'm not good at. And just, it was so, so scary. And now I'm doing this fully sober for the second week in a row. I mean, like, I hardly ever drink, but like, that's not the point. The point is, like, Dirty Martini started as just something, like a dream that was funded by just my internal motivation and a stick. And now, seeing how far I've come, I cannot help but be full of pride, because I'm not saying that the content now is so much better than what it was 2 years ago in terms of, well, content wise. I feel like I'm much more proud of what I create now. And yes, the audio sounds better now. We also have visuals. There is so much more development. um but the thing is, I'm reflective of the fact that there is still so much more to go, but I can still show appreciation for myself and my efforts that I've put in so far in order to get to where I am right now. And this is not the end point. Dirty Martini is going to develop more, I promise you. It's just, everything requires time, and everything will come with time when it is its time. You know what I said about, I just literally hit myself in the face. That was embarrassing. You know what I said earlier about Billy Joel? Wow, I will never recover from this. Whatever, whatever. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is that I will have never gotten to this point of the podcast had I not started the podcast. And I know that sounds so obvious, but like, this fear of being a beginner, being a newbie, prevents you from experiencing so much in life and discovering who you are, what you like, what you don't like, which are crucial steps in order to have. And I'm not saying that these are the only steps which are going to guarantee you a fulfilling life, but they are crucial stepping stones in order to being content. Um, and now, for example, with the guitar, I wanted to give you an example. I was, all of my friends play the guitar, and those who don't play the guitar play the piano. And I had always been plagued by the thought, by this concept that I don't play an instrument. I really didn't like this. And I realized that it is in my hands I have the power to change this, and I can learn to play the guitar. And I just had to go and try it out. And basically, I want to show you a clip of what I first sounded like when I played the guitar. The very first day I had it, I was looking for a beginner's song, and ironically, the beginner song that I found was Fine Line by Harry Styles, and we all know how I feel about Harry Styles. How I feel about his presses, though, for the current tour is something else that I'll talk about in the next episode. Um, but basically, I the second I got the guitar, the second I got home and it got delivered and I unpacked it, I was so excited that I just immediately grabbed it and started playing, or at least strumming and trying to figure it out. And the thing is, I want to show you what I sounded at first. I'll see if I'll be able to edit it. If not, good luck, Charlie. But basically, this is the very first day I played the guitar. And I'm, I would like to apologize uh, in advance for headphone users. I would like to apologize in advance to people who actually know how to play the guitar. I know that this doesn't sound good. Yes, so as we can all hear, I'm not going to torture you anymore. This sounds very bad. The guitar is not tuned. I I bought a tuner. I bought an entire set of things you need in order to start playing the guitar, and I bought an entire set, and I uh, thought I had tuned my guitar and this is what it sounded like. And I sent it to all my friends and I was like, oh my god, guys, hear how much I've developed just like in an hour. And like, maybe I have something in me, maybe it sounds good. And they were like, your guitar is literally not tuned. um, and then the next day, but the thing is with the tuning, I have a tuner, like an electric one, like an, yeah. And I thought, and this is maybe embarrassing to say, but I don't believe in embarrassment. I feel like embarrassment is a choice. If I choose not to be embarrassed, who are you to tell me that I should be embarrassed and ashamed? So I had put on the thing, like the tuner on this part. See, the thing is, I don't even know what the parts of the guitar are called, because I'm also learning the guitar in English, but my friends are telling me, yeah, you need to touch this and you need to grab this, but they're saying it to me in Bulgarian. So it's a bit of a mix in my head. So I put the tuner over here and I'm tuning, and the thing is, I had no clue how to use a tuner. I thought that using a tuner basically was me clipping it on and just twisting until it turned green, no matter the note. I had no clue that each string had to be tuned to a specific note. And then I was like to my friends, but what do you mean it's not tuned? Like, it's literally showing me green. And they were like, okay, then maybe your tuner is broken. No, I just simply did not know how to use it. But how am I supposed to know if I've never encountered this? So I think that's okay. And then the next day, I had tuned it, and like, mind you, I know it doesn't sound good still. I know there's so much more work to do, and I know it sounds faster than it's actually supposed to sound, but this is me literally the day after. See, I know, I know it doesn't sound great. I know there's so much work left to do still, but I think that's like a lot of improvement. And the reason I am bringing this up is because basically I couldn't have improved had I not started. and had I not continued working on the thing I wanted to achieve. And I think our fear of being a beginner is rooted, for me specifically, in perfectionism, which perfectionism is ruining my life. I know it. I am trying to move from a pathological perfectionist to a recovering perfectionist. It just takes a lot of time if this is the way you've been operating your entire life. But I'm learning to be okay with not being perfect. And I don't mean like, oh, good enough is good enough. I just mean like I'm learning to have more compassion towards myself and to accept the fact that I am human and there is no such thing as being perfect. What I also think the fear of being a beginner is rooted in is the fact that we are scared of judgment and we are scared of being vulnerable. And when I talk about judgment, I'm talking about judgment by others, like how others are going to react. And I'm talking about self judgment and this perception that we are not good enough, that we're not skilled enough, that we don't learn quickly enough. And I feel like this perception of us being incompetent at something simply because we just started it is so incredibly regressive and not productive at all. And I feel like this shame that we feel around being a beginner is depriving us from experiencing life at its fullest and developing ourselves as people, as individuals, as parts of society, as a friend, as a daughter, as a partner, or whatever. And I just feel like it also relates to our fear of failure and fear of the unknown. Because the thing is, to start something new, you basically have to change your status quo. And as people, whether we like the status quo or not, we innately have this bias, this preference towards the status quo because it is what we're used to. Because people, we're very habitual beings and we may want to achieve something, but realizing that changing it requires changing the status quo is what may put us off of actually putting in the effort and achieving the thing that we set out or want to achieve. And I think that also what is it with beginners being a beginner sphere is the fact that we compare ourselves to each other. And like basically after I sent the video of me playing the guitar and playing fine line to my friends were like, okay, use this as an inspiration. And they sent me a song by this Bulgarian artist that I love, who's from my hometown, who like I unironically love. And I mean, I cannot compare myself to my friend who has been playing the guitar for over 15 years. That's just super unfair to me, considering that this is what my fourth day of owning a guitar. And that's just not how things work. And because the thing is, I feel like we have the tendency to, in this comparison, we don't use it as an aspiration, but rather as a tool to put ourselves down. And who needs that? Who needs to put themselves down in order for trying out new stuff? And if you are out there and you're making fun of someone for trying out new stuff, and obviously they're going to be bad at it at first because this is their first time trying it, honestly, like look in the mirror. Look in the mirror because like is this really the energy you want to bring to the function? And would you be appreciative if this is the energy that was brought to you? And basically, I think that our fear of being a beginner is a reincarnated fear of being rejected, being not good enough. And yes, like I mentioned, for me, it's rooted in perfectionism. But the thing is, what trying out all those new stuff has taught me. Trying out the guitar, trying out using a microphone, trying out video casting, like my friend called it. What I'm starting to realize is that I don't need to be good in order to start, but I need to start in order to be good. And in order for me to be a master at something one day, first I need to be a beginner. And this is so earth shattering for me to come to terms with, because it's going against everything I've believed or thought about myself and the way I operate or should operate or whatever. And I like think about anything you do in life, literally anything. Think about cooking or going to the gym or painting or any art form, anything. Once, like let's take cooking as an example. Now I may be able to go and experiment with recipes. I may come up with my own recipes. I may not even have to use a step-by-step recipe in order to cook a meal. But there was a time in my life when I was unable to hold a knife properly. There was a time when I didn't know how long it takes to boil an egg, or I didn't know how to peel a potato. And I had to call my mom and be like, hey, do I cook potatoes for 15 minutes or do I cook them for 10? And like, there were times when I didn't know these stuff. But obviously, with food, it's different because you need food for survival. But I also feel like we should perceive those other stuff, like those other self-development aspects, as necessities for our and the necessities to sustain ourselves. Obviously not on a physical basic, when if you're talking about Maslow's pyramid, but in order to sustain yourself as a human being rather than just something that exists. And every single thing you do in life, you were once a beginner at. And I think the problem with a lot of those stuff is that we take for granted the fact that we have become good at something. Because now, for example, I don't even have to think about how much time it would take me to boil an egg. Um, I have come to take for granted. It's become so day to day for me being good at boiling eggs, for example, that I forget that once I didn't know how to do that. And I feel like with this normalization of the things we do, because obviously it would be cognitively overwhelming to consider everything you do as monumental, like um even though the things we do are monumental, because when you think about it, when you're born, you literally don't even know how to speak, you don't know how to walk, you don't know anything. And those stuff that we have become such a part of our day-to-day lives, we have come to take for granted, and we have come to perceive as normal rather than accomplishments, when they literally are accomplishments. And if you're out there and you just learned how to boil an egg, congratulations. Honestly, congratulations. Because like figuring out the perfect yolk consistency can take a few tries. So shout out to you. I'm proud of you. And basically, had you given up, after the first time, after you, let's say, boiled an egg for 3 minutes and it was undercooked, or like you boiled an egg for 20 minutes and it was, I don't know what an egg would look like if you boiled it for 20 minutes. I feel like if you had not continued working on your boiling egg, and I know this is such a stupid metaphor, but like this is apparently what I'm going to use as a metaphor in this episode. If you had not boiled an egg a second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th time, you wouldn't have been able to perfect it. And you survived despite the shame of not knowing how to boil an egg. you survived despite um, you you kept on working on those things. Your consistency paid off, and your return on investment for the finance bros uh, was sufficient enough to keep you going, because every single time you were becoming better and better and better. And I think that with those stuff, we forget that they're a part of like that self-development aspect, and that you live, you learn, and you develop. And I think the key is to keep trying and trying and trying. And because if I had given up after the first episode, and I was like, oh, it sounds terrible, it doesn't sound professional at all, and it's something I'm ashamed to put out into the world, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have this passion in me, and I would always just wonder, what if, what if, what if. And I don't want to live my life with what ifs. I want to live my life with, you know what? I did something. I am either proud of it or I'm not proud of it, but it taught me something. And I think this switching of perspective is the first stone we need to step on in order to overcome our fear of being a beginner. Because if you want to achieve something, you have to realize that for something to change, you need to change something. And I know this sounds so cheesy, and I know this sounds so Tumblr 2013, but it is true though. Because if, let's say, I want Dirty Martini to develop, it's not going to happen automatically. I needed to develop in order for it to develop. I needed to buy a microphone. I needed to press record. I needed to insert a video in order for it to develop, because I may want it to develop, but if I don't act on it at all, it's just going to continue being a dream rather than it actually turning into a goal that I'm going to set out and achieve. And I just think that realizing that you cannot one day wake up and be masterful at playing the guitar, podcasting, boiling eggs, or whatever, is can what can be used as a driver to develop ourselves further. And you cannot be the next master chef if you don't go out and buy a knife or a cutting board. You need certain tools, you need to make certain sacrifices, you need to make certain investments in order to develop yourselves and yourself. And the thing is, we do have this preference for the status quo because it's comfortable. And whether we like it or not, the price of growth is discomfort. Because now, for example, you see those stuff on top of my head, they are a storage space for me. This is where I store my stuff. But I don't want you to see them on the podcast. So everything is now spread on my room. You literally cannot see the floor of my room because everything is there. And it's pissing me off because my room looks messy and disorganized. But this is the price I am willing to pay for that 1 hour of development and working on the podcast, because I'm reflective of the fact that I need to experience discomfort in order to go out of my comfort zone, which is holding me back from developing the way I want to and the way I deserve. We are very complex, but at the same time, very simple beings. We are scared of change because we have this preference for the status quo, even if we're all overall very dissatisfied with the status quo. And it's change is not a linear path, and development is not a linear path. And I feel that we realize that by changing the status quo, we're going to discomfort ourselves, and we're going to go around about changing stuff, but talking about changing stuff rather than actually changing stuff is much more easier. And I myself am very grand when it comes to words, but I also struggle with this many times. And now with this 100th episode, with me trying out something new, like a new editing software, a new recording software, it's a very high risk, but And I was reluctant to do it because I was like, oh, but I'm so used to using Riverside, and it's so intuitive and it's so easy. Yeah, but the quality of the video sucks. And I want to provide you with good quality of the video. And in order for me to do that, I need to inconvenience myself a little bit. But that inconveniencing is going to be only short term, and it's a long term investment into something that matters more than my current convenience at this stage, because I cannot want to develop but things just stay the same. That they're just not compatible concepts. So I think that in order to overcome your fear of being a beginner, first you need to change your perspective. Instead of saying, like, for example, very first, very immediate thought, instead of saying, I want to be someone who plays the guitar, I'm saying now, I am someone who plays the guitar. Do I know how to play the guitar? I don't. I don't, for like, I cannot play anything to save my life. But by me changing my self perception to be the thing or the person I want to be, that motivates me to act on the stuff I want to achieve, and to make them just from dreams into actions and actual goals and step by step plans. And I think what um, our problem is with achieving stuff is, and this relates to honestly one of my courses that I'm doing right now, well, was doing. It relates to consumer psychology and basically this control level theory. And what control level theory suggests is that we tend to perceive and construct things in terms of the distance that we have to them. So let's say I'm talking about something a year from now. I am going to talk about it in more like grand ways, like in more basically ways that relate to its core, and without really thinking, like, let's say you asked me, will you help me move places a year from now? Obviously, I'm going to say yes, because I want to be a good friend and I want to be helpful and I love you and I want to spend time with you. But if you asked me, well, will you help me move tomorrow? And you ask me today, I would just be like, well, I don't know if I can, because I need to go to work and I need to edit and I need to study. So you start thinking about the details. But in the long term, and also this happens in distance, that's also metaphorical distance, literal distance, temporal distance, spatial distance, whatever. Um, Basically, when we think about the stuff long term, and this also relates to dreams, we think about their desirability. But if we think about what it actually takes, like the steps we have to take in order to achieve them, we think about feasibility. So we think, instead of focusing on the why, we focus on the how. And this how basically makes us think about the details and the logistics of it all. And we realize that it takes so much more to achieve our dreams than we initially thought. And I think because we become so overwhelmed by the how, we lose track of the why, and we just stop doing the things we're doing. And yes, I'm not saying that you should solely focus on the why and the how will figure out itself. You also need to focus on the how, because in order to climb an entire staircase, you need to first focus on the step that's in front of you, and then the next one, and then the next one. But while climbing that staircase, while going up each step, or like then taking a step down, don't forget why you want to climb the staircase. And I feel like in these moments of inconvenience, of discomfort, of, oh man, my room looks like a complete mess right now, this is my how, this is the details, this is the feasible, this is like, oh, then I have to clean it, and that's annoying because I have plans and I need to rush for my plans. But then when I think about it and reframe it into thinking about the long term and the why I'm doing it, and I'm like, well, the reason I am doing this is not to make my room a mess, but I'm doing it because I want to deliver good quality content. So when focusing on the why, I am willing to put up with stuff that inconvenience me now, because I know that the long term gain that I am going to get from this current inconvenience is worth it more than having than the discomfort that having a messy room is going to bring me in those 1 hour, in that 1 hour that I'm recording. And I think that focusing on the why will help you navigate the how. And I know that the how can be overwhelming, and figuring out the how is crucial. There is no denying it. But don't. I also have it here on my wall. Wait. It says, it's by Daniel Ricciardo, when he was celebrating his, I want to say, 200th Grand Prix, and when he said that, like, enjoy the butterflies, blah 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 blah. Oh my god, it's so important. Like, it's literally relating to the fear of being a beginner. If you want to stand on top from day one, then there's nothing else to look forward to. Enjoy the process of making a name for yourself. And then he says, what does he say? Stay focused, don't veer too far off your path, and keep trying to build and grow. And that's the thing. You, if you are a master at something from day one, and there is nothing else for you to work on to improve, then what is the point? In the sense of, maybe it really is the journey rather than the end goal, because the sense of accomplishment that you get when you're achieving a goal is you being reflective of all the effort that you put into achieving that goal. And if I had created Dirty Martini only after I had become good at podcasting, good at editing, good at marketing, good at whatever, I would have never created it, because in order for me to become good, I need to first be bad, and I need to learn how to be good. And there are so many things to look forward to. Like, for example, now this is a new era, this is a new beginning, and this is a new concept of the podcast for me and my self-perception. And I know it may not be groundbreaking and earth-shattering for you, but it's groundbreaking and earth-shattering for me. So this is a new, I unlocked a new level of mastery, quote unquote. Again, I'm not a master, I'm just learning, and in the process of learning I am becoming better. But if I were like a beautiful, impeccable podcaster from the get-go, then I wouldn't have had that accomplishment, like sense of accomplishment, now when I'm doing these steps to improve the podcast. And I feel like starting is the scariest part. And I feel like we need to eradicate shame, because there is no shame in not knowing. There is no shame in not knowing how to do stuff. And there is no shame. Wow, the dishwasher, not the dishwasher, the washing machine is taking a walk upstairs. Yeah, yesterday she was out of her space and I had to move her back. Um, oh, babe, you disrupted my flow. What I'm trying to say is that we can learn from the process, and instead of seeing every single time something that doesn't work out as a failure, you can see it as a learning opportunity. Because, for example, if I had seen last week's episode's video quality as a failure, I would have given up. No, I'm seeing it as a learning opportunity to now go and set out and try something else. And it's just about reframing and flipping the switch, flipping the perspective, which sounds so much more easier than it is. But I feel like once you rewire your brain to not make yourself the enemy, and to not make yourself um, shameful, ashamed, and mock worthy because you don't know something, then this is how you're going to eradicate that fear of being a beginner. And it is very frustrating at first. It's frustrating not knowing how to do stuff. It's frustrating just struggling to progress as quickly as you want, or as well as you want. It is frustrating. But you, when you compare, like, let's say, for example, I compare myself to my friend who has been playing the guitar for 15 years. Yes, I'm frustrated that I don't know how to play a single chord, but or like comparison is not going to help me. I will not be able to reach his level of mastery unless I start working on it now and actually start putting in the effort. So you need to be reflective of the fact that in order growth is uncomfortable, and this discomfort is not the end point. And by you going out, okay, think about it like this. Maybe you're not going out of your comfort zone, you're expanding it because you're becoming more comfortable with more stuff, with more experiences, with more situations, with more hobbies, more skills. You become acquainted with stuff that were unattainable to you, that were unfamiliar to you. And your best friend was once a stranger that you didn't know. But if you had not reached out to them, if you had not nurtured that relationship, you would have never gotten to have a best friend the way you do right now. So think about it in that way. And think like, yes, I know along the way you're going to have critics. Along the way, you're going to be a critic of yourself. That's inevitable. That's part of the process. You're going to have positive and negative feedback. But I feel like once you focus on the why rather than the how, um, but also the how is crucial because you need to make these intangible dreams tangible and feasible in terms of actionable. Because by me saying, oh yeah, Dirty Martini is going to develop, but like then not actually thinking about a step by step of how it's going to develop, then it's just a grant. Like I think about the why, but I navigate the how. That's the thing. They're not two polar opposites, they're working together. And I think that this fear is stopping you from becoming the the person you deserve to be and the person you want to be. And yes, you're going to face negativity along the way, and yes, things may not always work out the way you want them to, but things will always work out the way they need to work out. They will always happen the way they need to. And I feel like with you seeing a lot of maybe criticism along the way, you will not face criticism from people who have been in your position and people who are actual masters in the field you want to develop yourself in, because they know that once they were a beginner and once they didn't know anything. So eradicate this concept of having to be perfect, eradicate the concept of common knowledge, just eradicate this. It is baggage that is holding you down. Like you know you want to take the next step. In order for you to take this next step, sometimes you need to leave some of the heavy stuff behind. You need to make space for new opportunities, new lessons, by leaving the things and the chains that are holding you back and holding you down. And yes, the price of growth, the price of comfort, the price of development is discomfort. And but along the process, you will see that by exiting your comfort zone, you're simply expanding it. And you will start taming things that were untamed before. And this is what's going to give you that sense of accomplishment rather than anything else. The difference between your current and your ideal self, if that ideal self is even attainable, because what does ideal mean? But the difference between your current self that you are maybe, let's say, displeased with, or like that is lacking something that you want to have. So the difference between that and the difference between the person who has the thing, who has the skill set, is the fact that they went out, put in the effort, and did not give up. And the fact that failure for them was not an end point, it was not a period, it was a comma. And I know, again, I know this sounds very Tumblr 2013, and I know these are very obvious stuff, but I feel like sometimes it is the most obvious stuff that we are blind to. So I'll just leave you with that, because my friend is here and I need to go open the door for him. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, thank you so much for tuning in for number 100. I hope to see you in number 101 and for every number after that. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.